Hello and welcome to episode 9 of the Making It podcast, and it's a completely different format today because we're actually doing it in person, which is kind of crazy. And Dan, we're actually here together, mate. Shake my hand, come on.
I'm so happy, man. Like, I remember coming to uni, and I remember last year thinking, I want to film a podcast in this room one day. And now I'm here with you, Jamie, filming the Making It podcast. It's so nice to do this face to face. How are you anyway today? How are you feeling to be back in the Toon?
Feeling great. We went to have a coffee, didn't we, in the pre-chat?
He loves his pre-chat.
The pre-chat's the best part. And we had a coffee, and it wasn't decaf, mate. I'm feeling buzzing.
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to get you decaf.
No, I can't have 2 lots of caffeine because it's going to kill me off. But do you know what? I'm feeling super chill right now, surprisingly. And I'm just so excited. We've been almost making our very own blooper reel, haven't we? We've been trying to work out how to get all this stuff working, and we've just fixed it. We did a couple of tests. I don't know who broke the door, but bless the girl at reception.
Amelia, that works at reception. Bless
yeah,
her.
she's. If I add context, where are we right now, Dan? We might as well say that.
Right now, we're in Northumbria Student Union, and we're in the podcast room that they have. It's nice set up. They've got this art round, which you'll be able to see on the visuals. I believe, if it's not, it's a replica. But there's this guy called Mull Draws in Newcastle, and I believe it's his artwork. He's unbelievable. Whenever you find yourself in Newcastle, any listener that finds himself there, look out for hearts with just one eye, and they're running. They're Mull Draws. It's really like the art. But you know what? I just want to jump straight in, Jamie. Let's get cracking with the Making It. And
come on.
First of all, I just want to say, I'm grateful to be here, bro. I'm grateful to be here. It's so nice to see your face again, bro. Big and proper. It's so good to see you, considering I've been seeing you on the phone. But something I just want to talk about today is reinventing yourself. And I've found before in my life, there's been a time where I feel like I've reinvented myself. I think there's multiple times in your life where you reinvented yourself. I think in relationships, you reinvent relationships. And I'm sure there's listeners, I'm sure there's people who have been in positions before where sometimes you feel like you're losing yourself a bit. You feel like you've lost your mojo, you've lost your groove. Have you ever had a time in your life, on your journey, where you feel like you've lost yourself a little bit?
Yeah, I think like probably a few times, to be honest. But I'm still finding out how crazy it is that we're in here. Can I just say sorry to break away?
It's so surreal.
Like the seriousness of it. I didn't want to break away from that. I think the kind of it changes because from what I want to do, there's lots of different things that you can do in the area that I want to go into. Sorry,
commentary talking.
Yeah, into commentary or media or just football as an entire sport or even just sports as a whole thing.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I felt like I'd niched down to what I want to do. But then as I go on in life and I discover more about the sector that I'm within, the more I discover that there's so many different opportunities out there. So stop it. You're excited just as I am to be here. But no, I feel like there's been a few times, and maybe even going away on holiday was a time when I kind of felt, that I needed to readjust myself, and I kind of doubted what I was doing, because as soon as you exit that routine, it becomes so hard to sort of like get back into it and feel the same enjoyment as you did a couple of weeks before.
When you feel like you exit that routine or you're in that phase of losing yourself, is there anything in particular which brought you back?
Probably. I mean, having conversations with people like this is important, but like I think just in general, my passion for stuff. Like I think, when it comes to football, for example. Sorry, this is so tough for me to do. I don't know why this is so difficult to do in person, man. No, but seriously, I think like the sort of the passion and as soon as you step out onto that pitch again, doing football or something like that, you kind of get the feel for it again, and you remember why you're so passionate for it. But when you're away or you take that time off, you kind of forget exactly why you do it. So I think actually just being there, touching grass again, and just remembering why you love doing what you do in football or putting the headset back on. I mean, this for me has just unlocked some sort of feeling I've missed for a while.
Oh man, bless you. I think it's amazing you spoke about why, and I think that's why I spoke about it in the last episode. If there's ever a time where you do feel like you're losing track, there's always that why to bounce back. And I just thought I'll speak about a certain period where I felt like I almost reinvented myself in a way. I remember when COVID hit and we had lockdown, and you know that time I'm quite a sociable person. I need to be doing stuff. I need to be out, and just being locked in the house, like I struggled quite a lot. I almost felt like my confidence had been stripped back, and then going into school, and it was just a bit awkward, a bit tense. Like no one had really seen each other much, and I wasn't talking as much as I used to. Like even my friends would notice. They were like, "Dan, you're quite quiet. You know, are you okay?" And it was difficult. And what brought me back was there was a second lockdown period, and I started doing gym in my garden. I started seeing progression with the gym, and that gave me a little bit of an incentive. Like I'm feeling good about myself. And then I said to myself, okay, I'm going to try to build relationships with my friends again, because I found during lockdown, I don't know if you did at all, but I found certain relationships kind of went a little bit sour, or they kind of were on the turmoil a little bit. But I just thought, you know what, I'm going to come back to school and I'm going to build those relationships. And I think, you know, I've spoke to people around me, and I've got certain friends and certain people around me, and you see people, life, not in a cliche way, brother, but it is a roller coaster. And in those times where your friends or yourself are down below, not down under an Aussie like you were, boss, but
yeah,
you know, it's bringing yourself back up, and it's how you do that. And talking about almost bringing yourself back up and confidence, I was talking to my mate Fiki yesterday.
Shout out, by the way.
Obviously,
Legend.
you know Fiki. He's really nice guy, man. You gotta love Feeks. And I made a little metaphor, and it's, you ever been to the arcade and you've got that hammer, and you're gonna bang it on the machine, and it pings up, and you can get a score out of 100. And I thought, you know what? In a way, that almost reflects your confidence. You know, when you're confident, you feel really strong, and you bang it, and you may go near the hundreds, or maybe you're that confident and you're too confident, where you're outside of that sort of zone of being in your prime, and then it goes a bit, it's not the best hit. It's almost like putting that effort into life and that confidence into life. You reap those rewards, and in a way, that hammer is you and your confidence, and the score reflects almost your life in a way, and what's coming out of your life. And you're someone in my life where I've really realised you know how to use your resources. And I remember when I first met you, well, not first met you, but when we started like in the pub and we started properly getting to know each other. You know, that's when we started probably getting to know each other. And I just remember you made me aware of talking to people and leveling yourself up in a way where you build new connections. And I specifically remember you talking about that bloke on Twitter who sells the shoes, and he made that link to
Chris, legend.
certain people who have leveled you up in a way. And I went to uni and I started a LinkedIn page because of you. I started doing blogs because of you. I started talking to other people because of you. And in a way, I'm grateful for you, brother, for doing that. You know, you pushed me on to do that. And I just want to say, use your resources. You know, in your life, brother, what is a resource or certain resources you feel like you've really used which has benefited you in your commentary journey?
People, I can't describe them as resources, you know, because I feel like, you know, you can't say that, you know, and you can't almost quantify that. But, you know, people are the most important sort of thing you can have in anything in life. You can't do something without another person, because people say do things for yourself, which is sure is true. Do things for yourself. Ignite the interest, ignite the idea, but you always need someone else, because no one knows everything. Everyone has to talk to someone else to get to know something that someone else knows. That is the basis of life. You read a book, it's been read by someone, written by someone else. You know, anything. So I think that people, most importantly, social media, you've got to use it to your advantage. It comes with its massive disadvantages. I would say that actually social media has more disadvantages than it has advantages. But that's just in terms of how many. But in terms of the impact that the positives have on me, I use social media because of it. Twitter, there's so many disadvantages. I think the way that the platform is going is not particularly great, and I don't feel comfortable with some of the stuff I see all the time. But I know what I want to do on Twitter, so I'm going to use it. And you just kind of have to balance. And a sort of a third thing is just using a little bit of common sense in terms of how you approach things. Like, that's just something you have as a person, and some people have it more than others. You know, I'm sure we know people that don't have a lot of common sense. But in terms of read the room with a lot of situations, if you want to do something, recognize the time of doing something. You know, if you're going to make a new connection with someone, if they're going through a period of bereavement or something, you're not going to go out and text them and
Yeah,
say,
of course.
hey, come on, can you give me some advice on this or this? I mean, sorry to hear about your uncle and whatever, but it is what it is. You've got to read the room. You've got to have a bit of common sense. You've got to just time things right. And also, do you know what? A fourth one, you've just got to get a bit lucky with stuff. You've just got to get lucky, because I got lucky from a personal point of view that you came to work at the pub, because I made a new friend, you know, and I would consider you very close in my support system, one of 2 or 3 friends that I have in that system, because not everyone's part of my support system. You know, a lot of people that I am friends with, and this is in no disrespect to them because they're great people, but they aren't in my support system. I wouldn't rely on them, and I wouldn't put that. I almost don't feel guilty putting a pressure on you to kind of help me out a little bit. You know what I mean? Whereas I don't rely on them for anything. I wouldn't call them if I really needed to. I really wouldn't kind of think about them to call them.
Yeah, it's almost like my dad said to me once, shout out Big Kev. He said to me,
Legend.
you almost have a small circle of friends, and then you have your associates. Is that what you're sort of getting at?
It's almost like an onion. Like, your friendships are like an onion, right? You've got the skin, which is people that, you know, they're just going to kind of go away. They're just there. Do you know, we've all got people like that, and I'm not going to say names because I'm not horrible or anything, but or maybe they've already gone. But then as you get deeper in the layers, you eventually reach that core, and that core is your friends, as in like you, people like you, your family. You know, people that you would consider sort of, if I need something or need to know something, or I'm a bit worried or I'm not feeling so great, I'm going to call that person. I'm going to text that person. But as you kind of go down the layers of the onion, they all start to become a little bit irrelevant, and then you've just got that main core, the strongest part. So that's what that's all about, really, that friendship.
I think it's interesting you talk about an onion as well, because I saw your mum posted on her Instagram story the other day about cutting people off, and how sometimes there are people in your life where you do have to let go of someone. Someone's maybe done you wrong, or they've not been the best person to you. And it's almost when you start cutting that onion, sometimes you may cry, but sometimes it's got to happen. So in that way, with the reference to an onion, it applies to your friendships in a broader way in that sense. It's a very interesting way to put it.
When you cut an onion, there is that initial phase of crying, because it obviously there's like a chemical in it or whatever, you know.
It's proper science of an onion.
It's proper Alan Partridge, that is. You know, an onion makes you cry, don't you? To the science. But when you cut an onion, you do it with a vision, for it to taste good.
Sorry, I've never heard anyone speak about cutting an onion so like deeply.
No, because the onion symbolises so much. Seriously.
I wasn't expecting the podcast to go down this route, but I love it.
Wait, because this is real stuff as well. This is real talk, okay? As you chop an onion, your vision is to make it into something that tastes good, that makes you feel good, that gives you nutrition, right? You have an objective with that thing. When you cut someone away, you are chopping that onion. It's going to make you cry. You're not going to feel great when you are doing it. But your objective is something positive. So when you cut someone out of your life and you remove that layer of that onion, you are slowly realizing what you need and what you are. You are the core. That core is you. The rest of it is excessive layers that really don't need to be there, and whatever else. So with my mum, I think that, you know, she's had a few circumstances lately that where someone she knows for a long time, and I really don't mind saying this, but someone she knows for a long time hasn't treated her very nicely. And that person is an adult, and that person has known my mum for the majority of her life. And that person hasn't acted like an adult. And in all honesty, you know, people fall out all the time and stuff happens. But the way that it happened, my mum was in Australia, they were here in the UK, and they were sending her messages that weren't particularly very nice. But as a guy, as a bloke, right, I feel like I know that you can't, you don't, I don't want to go too far down there. This is what blokes do, this is what women do thing, because it's not about that. So don't misconstrue that as what I'm saying now. But as blokes, there is principles that we have. And if we've got an issue, I don't think it is a very blokely thing to do it on the internet over text. If you've got an issue with someone, wait till they're home and have that chat with them.
Some people would, though. Like you say, you can't necessarily generalise it.
You can't generalise it, no. But this person was employed by my mum in some way, or subcontracted to my mum. And therefore, as someone who's subcontracted, you should come and speak to your boss or whoever's, you know, employing you at the time, temporarily or whatever, face to face. So, you know, to not have the common decency to go and do that is poor. But again, we'll go back to the onion thing. Like, you know, but I think that's true. It is true. Yeah, you cut it, you know, you cut it, it makes you cry. but you know at the end of it you are going to get something good, depending on if you like onions or not.
I've never thought about that, and you know what, I do like it, and it did spark that idea of almost like you cry when you cut things off sometimes, and something I spoke about this week, I'm really interested to know what you think about this. I was thinking about external rewards.
Okay.
Let's say, and we did it on a lecture today actually, let me start with our lecture. So the example our lecturer gave was, you've got a boss, you've got two bosses. One boss says to you, you're 5% off your monthly bonus. If you keep doing what you're doing, by the end of the week, you will get your bonus and you can become employee of the week. The other boss goes, what you're doing is amazing right now. Keep up the good work and you'll build these big relationships and it's going to go a long way. The bigger meaning. What boss would you choose?
In my current situation now,
Just right now, if you had to choose a boss, what would you go for?
probably the second one.
See, that's interesting because in our lecture, 94% of people said the first boss. I was in the small 6% of the second boss, and it's obviously I've been reading a book lately called Start With Why, and that probably influenced me a bit. But to not sidetrack on the book I'm reading, when it comes to external rewards, you know, like money, like trophies, like medals, like those sort of materialistic items and aims and goals, it's a short-term effect, and I want to get your perspective on the idea of, do you think external rewards are bigger drivers than the meaningful ones? And when I say the meaningful ones, I mean the ones which take longer to get, the longer term goals, in terms of you're going to be a better person, you're going to build better relationships, you're going to aim towards that bigger meaning of your identity. But a lot of us, and just in my lecture, 94% of people went for the external reward. Is that our society? What's your viewpoint on that?
That is the culture that society has created because we live in a gig economy, right? So everything that we want has to be now. You have to get that better job now. You have to get that pay increase now. You have to pay that bill now. You have to owe that person now. And this is the problem because it has also changed our mentality towards how we look at things. Because me and you can have a long-term perspective and we can choose these long-term things like the 6% that did that. But that 94%, if they're in a job situation where they're relying on that bonus to pay for something they really need to pay for or just to make ends meet, naturally they can't afford to make that long-term objective choice. So I would say that a lot of people are forced into a bracket of picking short-term because they simply can't afford to choose long-term. And the way that their life is, they just can't do that. I'm in a fortunate position where I live at home. I have work, and obviously, you know, you pay tax on that money, but I live at home, so I don't have the accommodation cost, you know, and I'm going to Australia again in June. I don't have accommodation costs there. I'm in a really fortunate position. But while I'm in that position, I am going to look long term. So I do think that overall, the long-term external drive, that is really good. I think that is the best route to take. Trusting the process and being honest. And like one thing, you know, I've kind of been worrying about, you know, I worry about money sometimes. You know, I want to save up for when I go away and I want to make sure I have savings when I come home. And that's a long-term thing. You know, and I've kind of worried about having, you know, do I have a good enough job for that and all these other things. But you've got to trust in that long-term process. In order for you to make those savings and achieve that long-term goal, you have to trust in the process and hope that things in the short term kind of align with that. Obviously, I've got my, you know, a job that I've got back today, so I'm feeling really good about that. And it kind of stopped over winter, but I'm back to it now. And my mood's just gone like that.
Which job?
The gardening job.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm a part-time landscaper. So shout out to Landmark. If you ever need gardening doing, Landmark's the people.
He likes cutting grass. He's got a little hobby of cutting grass.
I'm decent at it, you know, as well. I put the lines in the grass and stuff, and I even do it must be like I don't know what slope, would it be 60 degrees if it's like that?
I'm not too sure, boss, but I know he likes to get into his patterns about his lawn. He'll just send me a random pic. I'll just be chilling about my day. Boss, check this lawn. I love this lawn. Been listening to a podcast all morning, cutting this lawn. I love it. Yeah. And I love to see that you love something like that. And I know we bring up Judy a lot on this podcast, but bless Judy, you know. Judy loves just seeing a flower come out of the ground, and that's that small things in life which makes you happy. And where were you going with that gardening again with the job?
So I basically just got my job back with them, doing a couple of days a week, 2-3 days a week. And you know, I love working there. I love it because getting up at 6 a.m, having a shower, making a bit of breakfast, putting on your trading kind of clothes, and going to a proper job. Do you know that's what it is? It's a proper job in terms of
it feels old school, doesn't it?
Old school, grafting. And I go to the shop in the morning, I get a coffee, and I speak to the people there, and I think, wow, this is awesome. We go to Co-op, we have a meal deal, have a little chat, and whatever else, and you're just in the garden, you've got a podcast on, and I try and use that time that I'm in the garden to build my knowledge because I've got that sort of time. But I want to kind of go on to sort of enjoying work from here, because I actually enjoy that. Again, I enjoy the graft of it, and I come home, my knees hurt, and I'm like everything's aching a little bit, and I've got to go up and do it the next morning. And naturally, you're not going to enjoy every day of work. I don't think that's possible, even if it's your dream job, which is up for debate again. But obviously, you recently left your job, which is obviously something that meant a lot to you, and we had a chat about it on the phone. And it did shock me when you said it, because I know how much you like working at this place. But what was that sort of process like? What was the reasoning for you? Because I think we might have covered over it slightly on the last podcast.
Yeah, we didn't go too much into depth.
But I want to kind of ask you more about it now, because leaving your job is such a tough thing, because these kinds of jobs in hospitality. So to give you context, Dan worked in a pub, really nice pub, Best
called
Guinness, Red House, Newcastle, Best Guinness,
pies.
Best Guinness in the UK, by the way. Best pies, yeah. But you enjoyed working there, but I'm under no illusion that that's not what you want to do in life. Yeah. So going back to the long-term, short-term, this is part of your long-term success or long-term future. But you have to make a sort of those short-term sacrifices of your time working jobs you particularly maybe don't want to work. But how do I structure this question? But in a way, we all have to do these sorts of things. But what made Red House different from anywhere else that you could sort of work, and why was it so important for you to experience somewhere like Red House? And then a third sort of part to that, how hard was it for you to sort of leave?
It was difficult to leave. The reason why Red House feels like such a great part of me in Newcastle is because potentially it's because it was my first part-time job here, and it gave me something to do on a weekly basis in my first year and part of my second year. And like we spoke about in a previous episode, and I know I love to say in the previous episodes, and that's why you should be listening to the previous episodes, but it's just that idea of people make a difference, and the people I've worked with there and the memories I've made and the meaning behind working there is why it's been such a great place. First of all, I love the idea of Red House. Like you say, the Guinness is proper, but I'm not really too much of a Guinness fan like you. But the pies are amazing. I love how old school it is, how simple it is, and how they get people in and all they do is pies. I love that. There's nothing... They're authentic in Red House. They do what they do, and they're known for that. But in terms of the people, that's where I met John Fleetwood. And context of who John Fleetwood is, I spoke about him in the introduction to making an episode. But John is who really ignited my... I spoke about Jamie giving me those idea of building connections, but John is the first connection who sparked my other real connections in terms of sports psychologists around the area. He would meet for me with a coffee and we would talk about things, and he'll tell me the structure of being a sports psychologist. He would give me little lessons on different areas of sports psychology. For example, parents at a club and how the coach, parent and player can have a relationship. And John's been a great person to me, and even now I class John as a good mate now, but as well as that, he'll always be a nice mentor to me. So I would say the people who work there, the memories and the meaning behind working there, such as meeting John, and I loved going there. It's like working at the pub back at home. I look forward to a shift there. I look forward to a shift at Red House. And the reason why it was difficult to leave is because of that feeling. And it's like that story I spoke of before on the podcast about letting go of a balloon. You love that balloon and you don't want to let it go, but sometimes you've got to let it fly off. And it started to become a point where I didn't enjoy going to work because it felt like too much. I felt like I was carrying too much on my back and the eggs in the basket were falling out, and that's when I realised it is best for me to leave. And I feel good about leaving, not in the way of I'm leaving the Red House, in a way of it's one less thing on my plate. I can focus on the things like this, like my coaching, the priorities that I want to prioritise. And I was doing my mentoring. You can probably hear some laughing in the podcast right now. We're in the student union, so right next to the social pub. So that's probably why I can hear a bit of laughing. But Where were we, Jamie? The laughing sidetracked me. There we go. So I've just been doing my mentoring before I met Jamie, and we were talking about feelings, and I spoke about leaving my job and how I felt sad, anxious, and stressed. But like we spoke about before, in terms of those sort of negative emotions, as you can label them, I use them in a good way. I did feel sad about leaving Red House, but by feeling sad, I went and spoke to the chef, and I said, "Boss, I'm leaving." And you know what? He turned around to me the other week and went, You made me emotional there, Jan. I had to turn around and, try not to let things out a little bit. And I use those emotions in a good way. But the reason why it's difficult is because of the people. But talking about those external rewards and those short-term aims like you were speaking about, I think in a way you can almost combine external rewards and the long-term effect of those. So we both know we have our goal in mind of life. It's almost like an end goal. I know I want to benefit those around me, benefit myself. I want to be a sports psychologist and I want to look after my health. A bit of a poem there. But Jamie wants to go into his commentary and he wants to be a better coach, be a better commentator, look after people around him. Like, we have our bigger meanings. We all, if you don't feel like you have a bigger meaning, find that bigger meaning. But in a way, those short-term drivers are what push us on. And I don't think external rewards should be the bigger meaning. And I think that's where there's almost like a false idea. So in terms of external rewards, I think we don't need to neglect them. We do need a bit of money in our life. We do need a little bit of an ambition, a little short-term goal to push us on to the long-term effect. And something I was thinking about this week, we talk about two friends, two perspectives. We got this podcast and we do have a different perspective. And I was talking to my mate Olinello during the week, and we both said to each other, we both go about life in a different way, but we still connect, and that's a beautiful thing about life. We spoke about it before. You can disagree with people and still carry on with life. And I once heard Gary Vee said it, and he said you can have one person and they can go out and party and they can still be the most productive person the next day. You can have one person, they're sober and they're so much more productive for it. And I think I could compare myself to you and I could go, Jamie's not at uni, Jamie works at the pub at home. He's got more time potentially to focus on the things he wants to do and more energy to put into those things, whereas I've got uni work I do have to do. I've got to do my uni work. And Gary Vee said, you can have those different people, but it's about understanding what do you want. It's different for everybody. You could have a favourite colour, I could have a favourite colour. It's different. Have you ever felt, and you can link comparison to this, you've compared yourself to someone else and you've gone, why am I not doing that? And that's what links to sort of reason why there's a reason why you're not. But how do you deal with comparison? And how do you deal with focusing on making sure the things that you do are right for you?
I actually really struggle with it. I'll be honest, I really struggle with it. There's people I know that are my age, maybe a bit older, and, and they're doing way more than me. They've gone to uni or they're working somewhere I've always wanted to work. And there is a feeling of jealousy, bro. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm jealous of that. But the thing that is different from me to maybe other people is I am jealous, but I want to make sure I get there. I want to make sure I get there. And I think naturally sometimes, and you have to waft away these thoughts, but you kind of wish bad on people because there's that horrible,
but almost why? Why though?
But I don't wish to. You've got a devil and you've got an angel on your shoulder, right? And I'm gunning for everyone of my friends and also people I don't know that are my age that are doing way more than me. I want them to do well. But almost at the back of your mind, you have that sort of, that feeling you don't want them to do. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's not me.
I actually can't quite. I get what you're trying to say, but I don't know if I felt that. I don't know. No matter who in my life, if it's someone I don't particularly like, if they do well, like as much as I want to do well as well, like I don't know if that, I don't let that affect me. So I'm interested to know what you mean by that.
I don't let it affect me. So that's not what I think. That's not what I want to think. But there's always that sort of like, that sort of devil on your shoulder that's kind of saying to you like, that's, you know what I mean? Don't talk to that person, or don't, because of that jealous element. Do you know what I mean?
In what way though? In terms of like, you feel like you should be in a better position than them? Like, where are you trying to go with
this? Well, my
boss?
stepdad put it the best way to me, because I had this chat with him, and he said when he was younger, he really wanted to drive, and one of his mates was going and doing their test, but he was super jealous, and he's like, I really want him to fail. I feel like crap. I want that to be me. I want him to fail. You know what I mean? Because I want him to be in the same position as me. And then he kind of went, what? But why do I feel that way? Because he's my friend. And, A, he can drive me places now. And B, your friend's doing good is good for you. That is a good thing. So I think that feeling I've just described there, I don't let it overtake me. So don't take that as me.
So you're not saying that's you. You're just saying you can.
That's not me.
Okay, so I think
That's
so
a natural human psychological behaviour.
So I was starting to think that maybe particularly you almost. That's quite an often regular thing you think.
No.
But are you trying to say that sometimes your mind will make you feel jealous and make you not want someone to be successful because you want that yourself, but you're saying you don't agree with that?
So your sort of non-moral brain or your non-moral thinking.
The red devil, like you said.
The red devil.
Yeah.
That kind of tries to just knock at the door and be like, hey, you should maybe think this way. And there's been a couple of times when, I've seen someone doing really well. I've kind of closed my phone and gone, fuck's sake. Do you know what I mean? Like, I didn't need to see that. Why didn't I need to see that? Why didn't I need to see someone doing better than me that is my age or a little bit older than me? I'm saying that because I'm not in that place I want to be. So I'm frustrated. But everyone's journey is different. Some people's journey is a bit easier. But I'm not really bothered about saying his journey was easier, mine's harder, because, I don't think that my life has been particularly perfect in every respect, in a family perspective, in a personal perspective, but I don't make those excuses. So comparison is really difficult because I don't think that your thing should be comparing yourself with other people. I think you should compare yourself to yourself. Cliche, say what you want, I don't care. Compare yourself to yourself, compare yourself to how you were yesterday, and look for those marginal gains every day and keep trying to be a better person.
It's an interesting topic because that's how I used to always feel. And I was on LinkedIn and there's this guy called Chris Shambrook, and I love the way this guy thinks. It's like I spoke about with the Red House. I felt sad about leaving Red House. I almost felt bad in a way. I felt like I was leaving the ship. It's not a sinking ship, but I felt like I was leaving the ship. And so I went to the chef and I went to people who are working. I was like, listen, I've got to let you know, this is the reason why I'm leaving. It's not an easy thing for me to do, but in a way I left in a good way because I felt sad. And I think it's about using these emotions. And Chris Shambrook talks about, let's say, worry. You wake up and you feel worried, I'm not doing enough. You can either go, I'm not doing enough, like you start getting overwhelmed, like, I'm just not doing what I should be doing. Or in a flip way, you can go, okay, well, what can I do today to make me feel like I am doing enough? And in terms of that idea of comparing yourself, I used to always think to myself, only compare yourself to others. And Scarlett, my girlfriend, talks about it sometimes, and she says that she finds it's inevitable that you compare yourself to others. And she thinks that's the culture we live in. We do compare ourselves to others, and it's very true. Like, realistically, we do. You're a very good friend of mine, but I also compare myself to you. But it's more in a way of, okay, we're going to compare ourselves to each other. That's how it works. But how can you compare yourself to others in a productive way? You can compare yourself to someone else and go, they're fitter than me. They can lift more than me. They've got more money than me. And you can go, I'm insignificant. Or you can go, okay, how does that make me feel? Do I feel like I need more money? I don't. Okay, I feel quite good about the fact I'm grateful anyway. It's about using these sort of emotions. So when you say only compare yourself to yourself, is there room to compare yourself to others, but in a productive way?
Only when you're on the same level playing field.
In what way?
So, and that doesn't mean that I'm saying that I'm not on the same level playing field as someone, but people's situations and processes are different. So someone might be doing better than me, but that's not to say the work that I'm putting in at the moment isn't enough. It just means that my situation, where I was born, how I live, my financial situation, my choice of not going to university, that just means that my situation is different. If we all started and lived the same life, we all lived on the same street, as a human race, we all lived on the same street, ate the same food every day, had the same parenting, had the same financial everything, then it would come down to purely productivity. That would be it. If the only thing you could choose was your productivity, that's all it would come down to. But there's so many different factors and different things that affect people's progress and doing things that they want to do, and most of it is just to do with luck. Did you get that phone call, or did that person connect with you and give them that 30 seconds of your time? Or was that person in a really bad mood, didn't fancy talking to you, and ignore that message? Because maybe I'm that person that got ignored, and maybe you're that person that didn't. And because of that, everything changed. And trust me, one phone call can change everything. That guy messaging me, asking me about shoes, and asking me if I wanted to interview Michael Dawson, not only is a good mate to me now, but because of that, I've had the opportunity to go and do work experience at Sky. I've met these great people. They've shared their wisdom and their knowledge with me. They're going to help me out when I go to Australia. So one message can change everything. And I'm just lucky that in that one night he was sat down on the sofa or he was at work and he went, I'm going to ask this kid if he wants to interview him. I'm lucky. So you will never truly be able to compare yourself to someone else, because this world isn't a level playing field. And that's one thing I think people need to remember. So when I say just compare yourself to yourself, that is the only person you are on a level playing field with. So
I really like that viewpoint. I see where you're coming from now.
So you see where I'm coming from. So yeah, you can compare yourself with other people, but just remember that situation, different factors, mental health, physical health, so many different things affect that. So, you can compare yourself on certain specific things, but you will never be on a level playing field with anyone you meet in life but yourself. And that's it.
Yeah, it's nice to have a debate, and that's that two friends, two perspectives, because comparison's such an interesting one, and that's why I had a debate with Scarlett about it, because she was saying, you're always going to have comparison, and I was thinking, well, compare yourself to yourself, and then I saw that post, and I was thinking, you know what, you can compare yourself in a productive way. What are you grateful for this week, Jamie?
I'm grateful to be here. I'm really grateful to be here. I'm grateful we got home safe. And I'm grateful I've got rid of the jet lag, bro, because that was horrible. Yeah, because yesterday, obviously, we had a phone call yesterday, and we didn't discuss everything we discussed here. That onion stuff wasn't pre-planned, That's the name of the episode, the onion. Authenticity, yeah. I wasn't feeling good, and I was in a really dark place yesterday. I was feeling that's the worst I've felt, but I think it's just because I was a bit sleep deprived and the jet lag lasted a while. But I'm going to be honest, I'm super grateful to be here. I'm super grateful to be in our own studio for the hour, and bless Amelia on the reception, because she's going to come in here and be like, for God's sake, that door, I've got to deal with that. Someone's going to snitch on me.
I accidentally broke the door. It's all right.
Dan's not claiming responsibility, but
wasn't me, it was Amelia.
I'm not going to tell her. But yeah, super grateful for this. Grateful to be back up here. Mostly just grateful to see you in person, because this feels so much better. And I'm not to say that I don't pour out and feel the same way as I do on screen when we're doing it online, but this just feels so good. So every single word I say now just feels so much better and more enriched because we're here together. So what are you grateful for this week?
I'm grateful to see your face, man. I'm grateful for you to be here. I'm grateful that you're here this weekend, and we're going to have a great weekend ahead, and I'm sure we'll talk about it on the next episode. I'm grateful for my mum this week, my family went to Amsterdam. It was the first family holiday I missed, it was unfortunate, but I'm older.
Did Big Kev have any of the cookies? Or
no,
could you imagine him?
I said to him, "Are you gonna get on the ganja?" But no, he's not. Yeah, it's all jokes. But I'm grateful for my mum, because my mum always looks after me, and my mum always cares for me, and just like my dad. Obviously, I'm not saying my dad doesn't as well, but I just want to say I'm grateful for my mum this week, and I'm grateful that we got to do a real life podcast this week. And to all those listening, you're witnessing the first real life episode of the Making It podcast, and we want you guys to stay on this journey with us and keep tuning in. And like we say, give us your feedback. Not enough of you are, and I've got friends that do. And if you are a friend that's listening to this, or someone that can get in contact with us, and you all can get in contact with us with our email, makingitpoddy@gmail.com. You can find us on our socials, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and comment down below on the Spotify. Give us your feedback, because we want to hear your voices. But it's been great to have an episode in real life with you, brother, and it's been great for the listeners to experience that too.
I completely echo that with Dan. Yeah, get your feedback in. Let us know what you think. Let us know what you think about the recording like this as well, because I'm sure we can make it. I said to Dan, I'll come up every weekend and we'll do this. Yeah. So Dan, it's been a pleasure. Episode 9 of the Making It podcast. Thank you for listening. Take care, and we'll see you Tuesday, 10 in the morning. See you then.
Take care, guys.
See you in a bit. I don't know why I just found you. Give me a proper one. There we go. That's the end of the podcast. See you next week.
Take care.
Feel so right.